Brought to you by Penguin.
Saving the Day by Fforde. Read by Rebecca Lacey. Chapter 1. Allie hung up her overall, pulled the tie off her hair and shook it loose. And then she picked up her bags of shopping. At last she could leave the supermarket where she worked and get into the September sunshine. Allie was tired and hungry and wanted a chocolate bar. She never seemed to see daylight when she was at work, and it got her down. Once Allie was out of the building, she opened the multi-pack of Mars bars on top of the bag and ate one as she walked. She finished at 4 on a Saturday, but the time always dragged. Allie got on with most of the people she worked with, but there were 2 women, Edith and Rita, who always worked together and who really got her down. Edith and Rita were older than she was and always grumbling and telling Allie how to run her life. She was 20, but Edith and Rita made her feel younger. Allie thought it was partly because her mum lived in Canada and had done since Allie was little. Edith and Rita seemed to think they had to take her mum's place. One of the things Edith and Rita were always on about was why hadn't Allie and Ryan, her boyfriend, got married yet? Ryan was a lovely boy. They knew this because his mum, Dorothy, was their friend. Ryan was very good to his mum and thought the world of Allie, they told her. Edith, Rita and Dorothy were all married young because they were pregnant, and Allie sometimes felt they wanted her to get married and have children so she would be the same. Allie knew Ryan was good to his mum, she saw it. Besides, he had a bad tattoo on his arm of a heart with Mum written across it. He did her shopping, brought her flowers, and often took her on outings, but Allie never felt he thought the world of her, Allie. Ryan never took Allie anywhere except the pub, and then only if there was a match on, so he didn't have to talk to her. He never brought her flowers or chocolates, or even a bar of chocolate. The most he could do was buy her half a lager at the pub, and that was only when it was his round. Not for the first time she thought about dumping Ryan, if only she could summon up the courage. They had been together since before they left school. They were together through habit. As she passed Django's café in the middle of the high street, Allie slowed down. It was in a part of town that used to be a bit run down, but now new shops and businesses were starting up, and there was a buzz about it. The café hadn't been there long, but had an empty shop on one side of it. It was doing plenty of business, full of office workers, young mums with huge buggies, and couples. In there, coffee was more than a teaspoon of mellow birds in a cup. It was a treat, special. Allie sighed. This was where she really wanted to work. In here, the staff always seemed to be laughing and chatting with the customers. They wore bright aprons that looked attractive and fun. She loved the smell of coffee and cake that wafted out whenever anyone opened the door. There was one boy she quite fancied who always seemed to be laughing and joking with his colleagues. He was cute. She stopped and looked in through the window. An older man, who she guessed was the owner, was cleaning the big coffee machine. It was nearly the end of the day. Several glass domes were arranged on the counter. When Allie passed on her way to work, there were huge scones, muffins, giant biscuits, and enormous layered sponge cakes inside them. Now there wasn't much left, except the odd slice of cake, some crumbs, and maybe a single scone. Once, when Allie had passed, and the owner was cleaning up, she had seen him take the last piece of cake and a scone, wrap them up, and give them to a homeless person settled in a doorway nearby. Edith and Rita from the supermarket thought that homeless people were on the street because they didn't want to work. Perhaps, Allie felt, because Edith and Rita had always worked so hard themselves. But Allie knew that sometimes bad things happened to people, and sometimes they ended up on the street. It wasn't always their fault. Although Allie usually looked in the window, this time something was different. There was a card. Kitchen assistant wanted. General help with some simple cooking.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?